So this isn't the exact bottle, but is the style of bottle and whiskey that got my good friend Stuart Campbell into Scotch whiskey to begin with. And he is a direct result of me having my insane love of whiskey, because he's exposed me to so many things. So he started a Scotch club at work. This is a Springbank 25yo.
Oh.
And straight from the Cadenhead Distillery or outlet in Campbelltown. 46%, so it's a little bit down from where we were, so this may take a sip or two to get back to. In fact, just wondering if we should reset with something a little bit plain and ordinary just to get us back down to the 40s, because that was a 58. This is a big drop. You may not taste it, and for a 46%. All right, so here's a banknote reset. This is lightly peated, but it is 43%, which is lower than that. So this will be a kind of a good reset. I'm not going to pour a full half ounce.
So explain just one more time to me, Andrew. But we are resetting so that because the alcohol content in the last one that we drank was so high that we wouldn't taste.
Yeah, we wouldn't appreciate all the subtle notes in here because the alcohol from the previous one will kind of have done our mouth in.
It's still great though. It's sweet. It's got like a nice light flavor to it. Very sweet. Like it's like I don't know, like those candy straws.
But if you notice from your first taste of this after the 58% one, this is almost like water. You got flavored water almost, but this is still 43%. So it's like, yeah, you need something to kind of like just lower you back down to that level.
Because Andrew was saying like a lot of times people will do whiskey tasting or Scotch tasting and they'll put the peated stuff at the end, but really you should have the stuff with the higher alcohol content towards the end. I mean, you can do whatever you want. And we recommend you experiment as much as possible.
Yes.
If you want to get freaky, get freaky.
We are all about getting freaky, and we confirm the freakiness that you want to express.
I'm not sure Arlo was talking just about whiskey.
Well, I am a guy in a Hawaiian shirt on a Saturday afternoon.
Freaky.
And not in Hawaii.
Yeah, I feel like I'm reset.
It's like $42, I think.
Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that.
Let's put this down here.
So people don't get confused.
Yeah, we don't want them to think we're drinking that. I mean, it's okay. It's not the whiskey that created Andrew's whiskey obsession. I love how you're talking about your friend who like got into whiskey because of this, and then that got you into whiskey. It made me think of Vampire the Masquerade, like that role-playing game, where it's like every vampire has a sire, which is the vampire that created them.
Right, okay.
And then back one generation is their sire, like going all the way back to the original vampire who drank some really good scotch.
I think I lost the metaphor in the middle, or it turned left or something, but yeah, I'll accept it.
It was barely a metaphor to begin with. Wow.
All right, here we go.
It's just a very much, like, that is like such a standard color. Like, you just think, like, this is the color of scotch or whiskey, you know?
Oh, wait.
Oh, wow.
This is a really, it's an attic. There's dust. Like, it's almost a dusty smell.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I'm up in like Twainhart, and I'm like in a house in Twainhart that's in the forest, and there's like
Where's Twainhart?
It's up near Yellowstone.
Okay.
I feel like I'm in a house in like a Victorian city, like in the attic. But it does remind me, like you say attic, I can totally see like the house I grew up in had an attic, and it would get very hot in summertime because there was no insulation there. And yeah, just the dust, and there'd be like a tiny window with like beams of light, sunlight shooting through.
There's some roll of felt in the corner that you're just...
And there's like old things that belong to your grandparents and up there.
Yeah, I'm getting very much of my dad's computer room smell.
Yeah, this if I'm living inside of this nose, this is definitely a Victorian house, an old Victorian house with like a lot of nooks and crannies in a Victorian, like quaint little Victorian town somewhere, you know. Maybe even a city. Oh, wow. It's such a delicate, complicated smell.
Oh boy. This tastes like whiskey used to be. I don't know how else to describe it. Oh.
I feel like the other things we had were like short stories, and this is like an entire novel.
This is infinite jest.
It's a novel that like, yeah, that just like, I have more to tell you, and it just kind of keeps going, you know?
And you're okay with it.
Yeah.
You're totally okay with it.
You're just sitting there.
It's super smooth. It's super smooth. It's super engrossing, and it just and it's so like there's more detail. Like this is like high definition, whereas the other ones, you know, although having a lot of stuff in there, like this is like I have a lot of tiny pieces of information to give you, you know, that I'm going to spread out.
Every edge has just been smoothed by years of use. It's just it's that rocking horse that just has the slow curves and the.
It's very nuanced, but like in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. I just noticed this here. Springbank 25-year-old marks a celebration of true Victorian whiskey. Wow. Production in Scotland's most traditional distillery.
I said it was a Victorian house.
Wow.
I win the show! There's no winning the show. I mean, every show is basically winning the show. What else? What other secrets are back there?
The long-established production techniques, together with the knowledge and experience of our craftsmen, are used to malt craftspeople.
Yeah.
Are used to malt barley on traditional malting floors, and then distill this most handcrafted of spirits. It is then filled into high-caliber oak casks and matured in our warehouses in Campbeltown until it is judged ready, and not before. It doesn't say not before.
Yeah, no, you can tell that because this is you can tell that they're like artisans went into making this flavor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there were people tasting it going nope, nope, nope for a long time and then going okay, almost, and then what about this? Like it's so curated. Like it's yeah. That's an amazing series of flavors.
They're one of the 2 distilleries in Scotland that does their own malting all on site, where they take the barley, they spread it on the floor, they wet it, they let it germinate, then they dry it in the kiln, toss it while it's germinating, dry it in the kiln, mill it, create the mash tun wort there, fill up the washbacks full of this really sweet unhopped beer, distill it again into low wines, and from low wines into the spirit, the new make spirit that then goes in the casks. They take the casks, they fill the bottles there. They do it soup to nuts there.
And so
why isn't that nuts to soup? Why isn't it the other way around?
Soup to nuts.
Soup to nuts.
This is way an aside.
The information will be down here on the bottom.
Yeah.
No, where?
Oh, soup to nuts.
It'll be right down here. After hours of research, we discovered the origin of this phrase, and it will all be described here on the video. Yeah. So for other places that do not do their own malting, they just get the malting from somewhere else. Is there somewhere in Scotland where it's like we do all malting for scotches all over Scotland?
There's a couple places. Port Ellen does it a lot for the Isla distilleries, and there's one near Inverness, and I don't know. There might be others in other places. Those are the 2 I know for certain. I don't remember the name of the one in Inverness. But they do a lot of it, and just like because they can do it industrial size. They have like huge malting floors. They got machines that toss it. They've got the kilns, and they just basically provide this germinated barley to the distilleries, and the distilleries will all grind it themselves using a machine that was made by this one company that went out of business because they made the machines so well. They're all still in operation, so they never never broke down. And there's this one guy, he's like 81, who goes around and fixes all of these things when they break. He can machine new parts. Fortunately, he has 2 apprentices now. They're like 62. So it's
I love that. I love that. Like there's literally 3 guys that are essential for like Scotch to exist.
Yeah.
And it's like
no one else is making these machines then.
Yeah, and I love that they made machines that it's like they're so well made. Like, and the thing is, like, we could make everything that way now. You know what I mean? But capitalism.
Yeah.
Oh man,
this is really making me feel like this is for some reason this is just reminding me of being a kid and my dad likes to drink a lot of Scotch, And this one in particular, like when you said the way whiskey used to be, like this just, for some reason, this just reminds me of like my dad sitting there drinking scotch and, you know, watching Doctor Who on PBS.
Oh wow, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Like, I watched Doctor Who with my
I
dad
want your childhood.
on PBS. Tom Baker, man.
Yeah.
That was our doctor.
Yeah.
Tom Baker.
Yeah,
my
this
doctor.
is the dad scotch. Like I go into my dad's den and he had this giant freaking oak desk that was like it was huge. It was carved from oak, and he like worked for the Army Corps of Engineers. So we had all this like stuff from the Army Corps of Engineers and like things from like, you know, hydroelectric dams out on the, you know, yeah. And there's all these little drawers with all these little dad things in them. You know what I mean? Like little like electronic parts and like, you know, stuff that he'd get from Edmund Scientific. Wow, this is a super nostalgic scotch.
Yeah, it really
This is just super nostalgic. I love it.
It feels like this is what, when the blenders are trying to come up with something that people are going to like this is kind of the target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bullseye.
Sweet, and it's just not rough. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just, there's no edge to any of the flavors that I'm tasting, and there's no alcohol burn from it. It's just,
And yet it hits multiple points all the way down. It's like, here's this, and then this, and then this, and we're still going. There's more, there's this, there's this, there's this. It's just, yeah, it's just like every single point along that line is a nice smooth curve. You know, there's nothing abrasive. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, looks like we're about done here.
yeah. I'm just wondering, you know, if after all of this, I'm just wondering if you like scotch.
No.
I fucking love
whiskey.
Oh, God damn it.
Come on, you gotta leave that as the ending. You've got it. That's this episode in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Because I definitely am like, I fucking love whiskey.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.